Hey guys, it's Quinn, and today we're going to take a look at one of the most decisive films in the entire franchise, Moonraker. As undoubtedly a goofy film, some people love it for its camp, while others hate it for simply riffing off The Spy Who Loved Me in Star Wars. But this film did technically get nominated for an Oscar, even if it was for special effects. So there has to be, something at least to it. So with that, let's take a look at the strange love child of You Only Live Twice and The Spy Who Loved Me and Roger Moore's fourth Bond outing, Moonraker. After a rehash of the opening sequence from The Spy Who Loved Me, but this time in an airplane instead of a submarine, which does beg the question of how these random guys were just able to get onto a space shuttle, we cut to Bond doing his thing on an airplane. Now, this is all a fantastic scene. It's without a doubt one of the best opening scenes, yeah. But we actually studied this one in physics when discussing aerodynamics, but my physics teacher brought up a really great point when he said that when the guy with the gun shoots the plane controls, why not just shoot Bond? But you know what? If we're going to question logic right here, then we're just going to stop because this film's never going to end, so let's just keep trudging through. And after a really average, if not bizarre, theme song and title sequence by, good old Shirley Bassey in her third and final outing as the Bond theme singer, we cut to a discussion between Bond and friends about most secret information concerning the disappearance of Moonraker, so Bond is sent over to California to meet the manufacturer in the form of Hugo Drax. After meeting,
A humble pilot in the service of the Drax Corporation.
we get some foreshadowing of Drax's insanity. I mean, a casual conversation between Bond and the pilot. Bond then meets the horribly creepy Hugo Drax, by far the best part of this film. But, not to be outdone, Bond meets the Bond girl of this film in the form of Dr. Goodhead, and I personally think the best line of the entire Moore era.
Yes, my name is Bond. James Bond. I'm looking for Dr. Goodhead.
You just found her.
A woman?
Dr. Goodhead tours Bond around the facility, who is acting a lot like Andy from The Office with how smuggish he's being.
I went to Cornell. You ever heard of it? And I sang in the a cappella group, Here Comes Treble.
Into space by rocket,
Orbiting the Earth and re-entering the atmosphere to land like any conventional aircraft.
What about music? Do you have any music?
Yeah. I should have said so. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul.
It simulates the gravity force you feel when shot into space.
After which Bond escapes a pretty great scene where he is almost assassinated by a 70s version of the shaking table from Thunderball. Bond, in a change of character, seduces a woman for information, who the next day is taken out by Drax's dogs in a really disturbingly long scene. Again, they try to assassinate Bond, who survives after a Thunderball rifle shot.
You missed, Mr. Bond. Did I?
Paul! Seems terribly difficult. No, it isn't, is it?
Which makes you wonder how much of this film is original or just, cash grab. Bond goes to Venice to spy on the glass company that he saw in Drax's hidden papers, where he runs into Dr. Goodhead and obviously invites her to dinner. We then get one of the greatest chases, A, in the history of the franchise, and B, maybe I'm biased, but in the history of film. Honest to God, it's like a video game, the level of poor shooting, and it's just, well, the movie gets worse, that's all I can say. Here's some of my personal highlights. You can't tell where Citizen Kane ends and this begins. That night, Bond goes to spy on a group of scientists who are working on these capsules. Bond steals one, and as he runs out, he sees the scientist drop one on the ground, killing him almost instantly, but leaving the other animals in the room unharmed. When Bond leaves, he gets into a You Only Live Twice style samurai fight in a fine glass shop, with Bond ultimately throwing the man out of a clock tower. He also briefly discovers that the poison is going to Drax Industry before we get yet again another weird moment. Why? Just say hello. Be a normal person. Jesus Christ. Anyways, composure. We find out that Dr. Goodhead works for the CIA, and after a quick sex timeout, Bond and co. go to where the scientists die just to run into Drax himself. Drax orders up our old friend Jaws, and Bond heads to Rio to meet up with Goodnight. Just, get mentally prepared, people. The second half of this film gets even worse. Bond gets photos taken of him by a Dr. No photographer protege who meets up with him in his hotel room later that day. Being a woman, Bond has sex with her, and that night she gets attacked by Jaws. We then get a brilliant sequence at a gondola where Bond and Goodnight escape the teeth of Jaws in a fantastically choreographed fight scene. And then promptly gets kidnapped by a fake ambulance. Meanwhile, this happens. Just a little side note, when I review these films, I rewatch it and then do the review. I stopped watching the film for 2 days after the scene, if that's any implication. Anywho, Bond escapes the fake ambulance, but Goodnight gets trapped in it. Afterward, Bond meets with Q, and after maybe the best Q branch scene since Goldfinger, even with a literal Star Wars reference, Bond is informed that the poison comes from the upper Amazon, and so he's sent by Q with a boat to go investigate. After a boat chase that Live and Let Die would shake its head at, Bond escapes yet again from Jaws, just to get captured by Jaws again, after Bond fights a snake. It is very confusing, yes, but it's Moonraker, and we are almost an hour and a half in, so let's just keep grinding, people. We're almost done here. We then get what I think is one of the most interesting scenes in the film, and it's basically Drax just talking to Bond about his master plan. Now, Drax, up to this point, could have just shot Bond multiple times, but he doesn't. He always lets Bond live, and you may think, why do this? Well, I've tried to at least allude to this once or twice in this review so far, but Drax is an absolute psychopath. And if you really think about what that means, it means that A, he has a huge ego, B, he wants to share it, and C, he really doesn't think about what could possibly go wrong because he's so confident that everything he will do will just go to plan. It can't fail. Because of this, he thinks that Bond's a smart dude. He could understand the brilliance of Drax, so why kill him? So he tells Bond everything that he's done, discusses his accomplishments, because Bond has seen shit, so he gets what's happening. So I really think, for the first time in the series, and indeed the only time I can think of besides From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Casino Royale, the good ones, this holding of Bond instead of actually killing him really makes sense. But instead of it being plot related like the other three films, it's only because the character is so twisted that he's willing to jeopardize his entire situation solely to show off. So really, for nothing else, the film should get kudos for setting this up so well. Or maybe, we have 40 minutes left, so you can't just kill off Bond yet. Your choice. Bond and Goodhead are then placed under Space Shuttle, which is about to take off, which, granted, is a bit overkill, but the sets and effects in the scene are really cool, so credit where credit's due. Bond and Goodnight escape, and after conveniently not getting seen by anyone,
We have separation.
they take out two astronauts and get a ticket to space. Now, I know we can nitpick, like I will right now, the hell out of just how Drax got away with building a full space station in space and letting all of these shuttles go there at the same time, seeing as MI6 knows that he is mass-producing poison. Like, you would think the Russians would get a little pissed at all of this, but I do have to say that the effects here are incredibly impressive, and for as stupid as this all is, It is extremely well made right here. Again, I know that this film gets a lot of shit, but it's moments like this that make it really stand out in the series for me. Sure, Star Wars in 2001 did it first, but I enjoy the fact that they at least put a little effort into at least this part of the film. So Bond and Goodhead board the main shuttle, and it's all very pretty and all that good stuff, but you have to wonder, the shuttle's so damn big that it's shocking that no one has stumbled upon it. And I know that they say that there's a radar jamming system on board, but I mean, hey, someone has to call bullshit here. Anywho, once on board, Drax gives his best, for lack of a better term, Hitler impression by talking about how he's creating a new super race. And again, credit where credit's due. I really like the fact that the only reactions they show during the speech are Bond's and Jaws. Bond has heard this shit before, so he's kind of just spacing out the entire time. But by showing Jaws this entire time, we as the audience know that something isn't right here, that Drax is bullshitting Jaws in some fashion. It's a very subtle thing, and it may just be because I've seen this film a few times. I'm trying to find new things to analyze, but I do like how they repeatedly, over the course of the film, hit you over the head with the fact that Drax demands perfection, whether it be his dogs or the women on the ship, and by showing Jaws and Bond in this scene, you immediately understand that those are the two people that do not belong here. That the only way that this won't work is if one of them does something. It's small, but I like how they set this up. Bond and Goodhead take out the radio jamming system, and after we find out that the space station is 200 meters long, like, let that sink in, that's 4 Olympic pools, NASA sends up an entire platoon of men in like 5 minutes. But anyways, Drax starts to launch the poison pods out when he explains to Bond and Jaws that anyone who isn't perfect will be eliminated, aka Jaws and his girlfriend. So Bond, Goodnight, and Jaws fight back, and after disabling the station rotation, meaning that the gravity is disabled, we have a Thunderball-style fight where a bunch of faceless men fight while Bond goes after the villain, but this time with lasers, so, pretty cool, people. Bond and Drax have their final showdown, which if I ever do a list of the top 10 villain deaths, this will be right near the top. The entire ambiance of the scene, combined with Drax just being kind of a dirtbag till the very end.
At least I shall have the pleasure of putting you out of my misery.
Makes this scene just absolutely perfect in my mind. Anyways, Jaws helps Bond and Goodhead escape in one last moment of greatness for arguably the best character in the series besides Bond. As the space station breaks up, Bond and Goodhead go after the 3 pods of poison which have been launched. And if you've ever played 007 Legends, you know that this is by far the hardest part of the game. So good for them for getting the job done. Jaws and his girlfriend survive. Bond does the dirty deed with Dr. Goodhead as Q watches with the camera, which we will see again in an even more bizarre film down the road. So gang, we survived. That's Moonraker.
Take me around the world one more time.
Why not?
I've been reviewing James Bond for years, and I've seen Moonraker more times than I can remember, but this might be the most difficult conclusion I've ever had to draw on a James Bond film. On one hand, this film has so many stupid moments, whether it be that bizarre boat chase or the horribly awkward gondola sequence, but there's some really clever things that this film does, and I really respect it. The visuals are by far the best in the series. The fights are entertaining for what they are, and Drax as a character is so brilliantly constructed throughout this film that even more interesting characters like Scaramanga and Golden Gun can't compare to in how well they are developed. I think the way to go at this is to look at the overall good and bad and then go from there. This film gets hate because there's so many stupid moments that take away any seriousness from the film, which is very true. So even when you have great characters like Jaws or Drax, they are ruined by awkwardly injected moments of slapstick that do not apply to the overall ambiance of the film. The overt product placement throughout the film is distracting, if not kind of funny, and the plot is literally if Connery, the spy who loved me, and George Lucas had a drunken night out in the town. But from this all, I have one response which I think we all forget when we seriously review Bond films, and that is that the Bond series is built on sex and camp, and this film pretty much nails it. I think it starts with our main characters. Jaws is one of the most insane ideas of a villain in any film, so to give him romance is just hilarious. Drax is absolutely Christopher Walken out of his mind in this film. Roger Moore literally winks at the camera several times in the film, and the Bond girl's name is Dr. Goodhead. Like Alana Vagina in Austin Powers would roll in her grave hearing that. So looking at it through this lens, Moonraker as a James Bond film is really not that bad. It's stupid as hell. Every character plays perfectly to what the role has traditionally been in the series, and if you combine this with a surprisingly good score and visual effects, then you're at least getting brownie points from me. So overall, yes, this film is stupid. Yes, it's sloppy, but if you truly clear your mind and know what you're getting yourself into, Moonraker can be a really good time. The Spy Who Loved Me is sure as hell better. Die Another Day sure as hell wins in the wacko department, but for a film put together in a jiffy to become Star Wars Jr., it got the job done. So overall, yes, watch this film, just realize it didn't dress to impress. So what do you guys think of Moonraker? Am I being way too nice to it? Should I have torn it a new one like I will for your eyes only? Whatever it may be, leave it in the comment section below. And as always, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.
Jaws, you obey me. Expel them!
And to answer your question, yes, I am a fan of the Jaws relationship.
Well, here's to us.